The Department of Health Services knows the areas it would like to target with opioid settlement funds owed to the state. Every year, the state of Wisconsin receives money it won in litigation against major opioid pharmaceutical companies. For the fiscal year 2025, the state will receive $36 million to disperse. DHS would like to see the money help in several key areas, including tribal nations, community and after-school prevention, opioid treatment programs, and capital projects to create more places for people to receive the help they need in active addiction. Right now, there simply aren't enough places for people to go to recover.
This is something we heard across the state, that we need more places where people can recover safely and based in their own communities where they're connected to the resources and their support system. But that is also why we've included capital dollars into this year's request, is because those capital dollars are really intended to increase the number of places where people, recovery places and places where people can become sober and heal.
Attorney General Josh Call says the success of someone in recovery doesn't depend on treatment alone. It's the reason he also wants to see money allocated to family resource centers.
Often there are a lot of related issues that impact whether there's a successful recovery process. And it's things like access to transportation and employment and housing. But having family and other social support can play a critical role. And so this not only helps the folks who are family members who are impacted by having a loved one struggling with this, but can also help empower those family members to support their loved one's recovery.
DHS submitted its plan to the legislature. It is now up to the Joint Finance Committee for approval. You can see the full plan at WBAY.com.